So this is a new phase that we're entering, where we have been in social and obviously physical distance from others for quite some time, most of us. And we're now going to go into a phase of reconnecting. And this short video looks at how we can do that in a healthy way, because it's an incredibly challenging thing to do at this stage, where everyone may have experienced things in a different way, may understand the measures that are to be put in place in a different way, or want to implement them in a different way. So before we went into lockdown, before the corona situation, we, in most societies, had sort of agreements on how we interact with each other. Before corona, if a workman had come to our door and I opened the door, I would put out my hand to shake his hand or her hand and let them in. If I had gone and hugged the workman, it would be really awkward, and he would probably be offended, she would find it really inappropriate, and that was not the social agreement. Now we don't know what the social agreements are, and they may be quite different depending on each person. So there are 4 things that we would recommend. The first is, be clear what you want, how you want to implement these measures. The minimum obviously being the legal restrictions, but anything over that, being clear, are you going to want a certain distance from people you aren't regularly in contact with to avoid that sort of connection? Or are you going to want to wear a mask when you're in larger groups, and for others to wear a mask around you? These sorts of things, so that you can then communicate that in a clear way. The second thing is to have empathy for those who have a different understanding of it. So, some may actually have no problem speaking directly to you without necessarily having a face mask and without being 2 meters away, and feel that this is, for them, important. And it's to have empathy for why they are taking those decisions, and inquire, be humble, and ask to understand what they are basing their sets of measures on, so that you can also learn. Maybe they have different information. The third thing is not to try to convince others of the way that you are doing things is the only way, and that they should be doing exactly what you're doing. The more you're aiming to get someone to do what you're doing, the less you're actually listening and opening up to understanding how they're doing. Instead, it's about explaining why you've chosen what you've chosen, what you're basing it on. And to be fair, that generally is much more convincing than someone who's really forcing and saying, this is the reality, this is how it must be, you don't understand. The fourth and final thing is to regularly take a step back and really see, internally, emotionally, also in your mental state, how are you in the situation of reconnecting with others? How are you feeling? What's going on in you? Maybe breathing 2-3 times and just saying, oh yeah, that person who's coming really close is triggering me, or I really want to hug someone and I really need that, and really to sense what is important and what is going on in you. And then communicate that as well with those around you. If you feel really stressed because everyone's just acting in a way you really don't feel comfortable with, then to communicate that. Because in this period, what we really need to be doing is reconnecting socially. Whether we all do the physical part in the same way at the same time, that's another question. But we need to be really careful to build these new social agreements in a respectful, in a humble, in an inquisitive way. Obviously keeping in mind the whole purpose of all of this, which is to keep our entire society safe and healthy, including in particular the weakest amongst us. So I hope these tips, thoughts were useful. Let us know how you use them, what you thought, and if you want to speak about them in further detail or need any other support, do get in touch.